Hello and welcome to The Office Field Guide, the only show on the internet where I talk about The Office. My name's Chris and we're reviewing every episode of The Office ever. Today we are looking at Women's Appreciation.
Why don't you just take these women, put them in a burlap sack and hit them with a stick? Because that's what you're doing.
Which is the 21st episode of the third season of The Office. This episode was written by series veterans Gene Stupinsky and Lee Eisenberg, who, if you've not been following along, I will lovingly refer to as Stupinsky. Women's Appreciation was directed by Tucker Gates, who we talked about last time with the branch closing episode. This one first aired on May 3rd, 2007, was viewed by 7.6 million people, and currently has an 8.8 rating on IMDb. Your trivia for this episode is, what kind of candy bar does Dwight go holesies on?
No, holesies.
Might be an easy one. Leave it in the comments, as well as a timestamp of the Hidden Prison Mike or Floating Andy to get your name in next week's video. Okay, and with that, to really analyze this episode for this field guide, we're going to be talking about some mature topics. So you might hear the word
penis
a couple of times.
Won't that just shed more light on the penises?
Kind of. We'll get there. Anyway, with that, let's appreciate this one.
No one asked you anything ever?
The first thing I want to talk about is that there's actually some great stuff in the DVD commentary on this episode. It's discussed that the talking head where Michael talks about their safe word,
Foliage.
was actually just a placeholder bit that they forgot and they left in the final version of the script. They also discussed how filming offsite became increasingly difficult as crowds would follow them everywhere and people would consistently shout out Carell's name. Flannery talked about how the driving scenes was her favorite, as she was excited that her van finally was making a comeback, calling it basically another character on the show. Kinsey talked about how fans started bringing American Doll catalogs for her to sign after this episode aired, and it was discussed that the cold opening was originally intended for the business school episode, and the product recall cold opening was intended for this episode. Everything was cut and shifted for time as Women's Appreciation was a supersized episode, along with beach games, and then culminating in the hour-long episode, The Job. But back to the cold opening, this is bureaucracy at its finest.
Like, what does a demerit mean?
Let's put it this way. You do not want to receive 3 of those.
Lay it on me.
3 demerits and you'll receive a citation.
Now that sounds serious.
Oh, it is serious. 5 citations and you're looking at a violation. 4 of those and you'll receive a verbal warning. Keep it up and you're looking at a written warning. 2 of those, that'll land you in a world of hurt. In the form of a disciplinary review written up by me and placed on the desk of my immediate superior.
Which would be me.
Next thing we have to talk about is the anti-flashing task force. I love everything about this bit, but apparently if you called this number during the runtime of this episode, you heard the following prompt. You have reached Dwight K. Schrute, commander of the Lackawanna County Anti-Flashing Task Force and assistant regional manager of Dunder Mifflin. If you have any information leading to the capture and or castration of this pervert, press 1. If this is the flasher, then let's talk. You need a friend right now, and I can help you. Just tell me where you want to meet, and I promise I'll help you whatever it is that you need. Thank you, and have a nice day. Oh, and if you're inquiring about any of our paper products and would like a catalog, please press 2. Finally, if anyone, not the flasher, is interested in an awesome 1985 maroon Firebird, I could be persuaded to sell mine. Please press 1 for that too.
Dunder Mifflin Paper / Sex Predator Hotline. This is Dwight Schrute.
This number was later reused for the WB Jones heating, but now is what we have to talk about. I called it this week, and it's now a sex hotline. So there's commentary even in real life there. And a quick round of things I noticed in this episode. You can see Krasinski breaking character here.
You know, as that was coming out of my mouth.
And I've always wondered, who do you think Creed's paying to use the ladies' room?
What are you doing in here? This is the woman's room.
You're in here.
I pay for that privilege.
I made the pilgrimage to Scranton and visited the real Steamtown Mall. And no offense to Scranton locals, but it's not as grandiose as this. I love the callback to the business school episode.
Employees of this office are very small and delicate. Deserve protection from local pervs.
I did notice that Dwight changed up his color scheme for this episode.
Dwight, are those your pants? That's a Polaroid.
And what kind of screwed up circus has Michael been to?
Masters of comedy, a guy dropped his pants. Have you ever been to the circus?
Wilson and the cast trying to get through the task force announcement bit is some of the best bloopers season 3 has to offer. I'll put a clip at the end of this episode, but the link for the full video will be in the description. And back to things I noticed, I don't think this bit gets enough love.
This is what we know.
And moving on, I've seen this meme in several different forms, and I've always wanted to put together an edit for it. So I can't take credit for the original idea, but I hope I do it justice.
And I threw a coin in for every woman in the world and made a wish. I wished for Jan to get over me.
Imagine there's a princess who falls for a guy beneath her station, and the queen doesn't like this at all. And the princess knows that the queen doesn't like it, and so it makes her want to do it all the more just to get at the queen.
Am I the princess?
No, I'm the princess and the queen.
I wished for Pam to gain courage.
I did the coal walk. I did it. Michael, you couldn't even do that. Maybe I should be your boss.
I wished for Angela a heart. And for Kelly, a brain.
You guys, I'm like really smart now. You don't even know. You could ask me, Kelly, what's the biggest company in the world? And I'd be like, blah, 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 blah.
But you know what? My wishes never come true, so I'm not going to wish that on her. A watch would be nice.
And with that, let's dive into the deeper meaning.
Why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5?
I've made it my goal to not politicize anything on this channel. My goal is to talk about The Office, and at times, The Office makes statements about social issues, be it racism, classism.
You don't even know my real name. I'm the Lizard King.
Or in this case, sexism. In each of these cases, I understand that the goal of goofing on these topics is to diffuse tension in order to get a deeper meaning out there.
I don't think laughing about it's an appropriate response.
The topic of sexual harassment came up in several episodes before, mainly in the episode entitled Sexual Harassment in Season 2, but women's appreciation has a vastly different tone and approach to the subject matter. But I've always been intrigued by this line.
You're being sexist.
No, I'm being misogynistic.
While Michael's ignorance cracks me up, I have to admit, I don't really know the difference between misogyny and sexism. So I had to do some research this week to find out that it's a deeply complex and nuanced topic, one in which many leading voices out there have differing opinions on. And to be honest, I don't think I have a firm grasp on what these definitions are.
I'll check the web.
Merriam-Webster defines misogyny as hatred of women, and Dictionary.com expands on that by adding terms like dislike, mistrust, and prejudice onto the pile. Sexism, on the other hand, is defined as prejudice based on sex, exhibited by behavior, conditions, or attitudes that foster stereotypes of social-based roles for sex. So using these definitions, which I hope I'm using right, we see sexism in several different ways in this episode. First, Michael is sexualizing his coworkers.
If Pam wants to show more cleavage, she should be able to. I encourage that.
The stereotyping aspect shows up when Michael's attempt to level the playing field takes them to the mall.
You know where we're gonna go? Steamtown Mall.
Dwight's attempt to protect women end up restricting their freedoms.
Females are not allowed to speak to strangers unless given written authorization by Dwight Schrute. This is ridiculous.
Attention, I am removing all bananas from the kitchen.
But that might just be Dwight.
Better 1,000 innocent men are locked up than one guilty man roam free.
And I think there's some interesting role reversals in this episode too.
I'm spending a fortune on gas and tolls.
I'll give you $200. If I get up before you, I'll leave it on the dresser.
That...
And again later, as he explains some of the dysfunction in his relationship.
Well, Jan has this schoolgirl fantasy.
It's a pretty common one.
I feel uncomfortable wearing the dress.
Okay.
And continuing with the role reversal theme, Pam changes attire while Michael and the rest of the ladies stand to the shade. And really, this is a sexism rabbit hole of an episode, where each character interaction has some depth to it. As funny as Michael's final talking head is,
Well, maybe I learned something from women after all.
it's clear that while he doesn't seem to hate women, there's still an aura of sexism deeply seated in his understanding of the world. And it seems to be a reoccurring theme while I was researching over the last week that these traits of misogyny and sexism are subconsciously rooted in us. And this is where I typically talk about the message of the episode, what moral we're supposed to learn from it. And I'm really battling on what to say.
Okay, so what I want to engage us in today is a hardcore discussion about women's problems and issues and situations.
I mean, on one hand, I'd condemn treating anyone differently for anything. Life is hard enough without us humans being awful to other humans.
Phyllis, you're a married woman.
But I am a man, and with that comes privilege and bias. I'm aware of that, and so far be it from me to explain to women all of the crap that they have to put up with in real life and online. So I'd invite anyone in the comments to share what this episode means to them.
Are we still discussing this? I say again, what is the big deal?
I have a daughter who I cherish. We've recently been discussing the possibility of her beginning to do some live streams. She's all into Fortnite. And my number one concern with her is her heart, as she's undoubtedly going to encounter examples of sexism and misogyny online.
If that's flashing, then lock me up.
While our society's come a long way, it's important to remember that we still have a longer path forward, especially on the internet.
Did you hear that, Michael?
No, Dwight. Respect. RESPCT. Find out what it means to me.
Or I don't know, maybe this whole episode exists for this moment.
Pam!
All right, with that, let's dish out some Dundies.
And then I gotta get him to the Dundies.
All right, the Dundie, for oh so awkward, goes to Michael and Angela.
See-through, push-up, lace, thigh-high, bustier, anything. It just, you know what? I would love to buy you a fresh set of underwear.
Yet another great blooper here.
Santa would like to buy you a pair of panties, little girl. Santa would like...
And the Dundie for the best cameo goes to Hunter.
well, I don't know.
No, whatever. Just let my assistant know if you're coming over so he can get more vodka, okay? Hunter, are you on?
You got it, Jan. It's short and sweet, but being silent while Jan propositions Michael, it's the best. With that, let's rate this thing.
What gives you the right?
All right, the cold opening was excellent, and I really do like this one. Between the bureaucracy displayed and the banter between them,
You will receive a full desagulation.
What's that?
and you guys know I'm a sucker for Jim Dwight openings, so I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5. It hits on everything except it's not connected to the episode at all. Not in the plot or the deeper meaning. Well, I guess you could say that there's something to do with the arbitrary rules that the patriarchy employs, but I already said this cold opening had nothing to do with this episode, so we can scratch all that. For this episode, I give it a 3 out of 5. And don't take that as a slam against women.
I know the crap out of women.
You know how you feel when you open up your favorite bag of chips from a vending machine and there's only like 15 chips in there? That's what this episode is like. There's a lot of filler airtime.
This is so great, huh?
I think the pacing in the second act is what the issue is. The first 10 minutes work extremely well, and so do the last 5 minutes. So all in all, I give this episode a 3 out of 5. But that's just what I think about women's appreciation. What are your thoughts? I want to hear them in the comments along with the message of this episode. Also, don't forget the timestamp of the Easter egg or the trivia. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell, all that stuff. You'll get notified next week when we take a look at the Beach Games episode.
I just want to lie on the beach and eat hot dogs. That's all I've ever wanted.
An episode very near and dear to me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.